Cool, cool. And John, are you ready after the introductions?
Yes.
Okay, cool, cool.
Morning, everyone. Dan Bates, President and CEO, Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce, and we're here for Coffee and Conversations this morning. We're going to be hearing from John Rhoads about the fundamentals of networking, something we all always need to sharpen our skills with. So we're going to be hearing from him in just a little bit. We are on a Zoom meeting. We are also on Facebook Live. So if you're on Zoom, I'm sure John won't mind if you ask questions during his presentation. If you're on Facebook Live, type your questions in, and Laura or Tiffany will get them presented to the speaker for you. So with that being said, you know who I am, you know what the format is, and who's doing self-introductions.
Me. All right, I'll just go around my screen. If you could say what your name is and what company you're with, that would be great. And we will start with Christy.
I'm Christy Wesselman from Listening Heart. My listening is my superpower. So happy to be here, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Gina.
Hey guys, I'm Gina Ferraro, represent several different businesses, but Land of Illusion was supposed to open over Memorial Day weekend, but we postponed that opening because it was so chilly out. So we are going to be opening this weekend, and we hope that you'll join us. I think that they even, if you subscribe to our texts, you can get tickets 50% off right now. So we hope to see you. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you. Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Shepard with Butler County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and I oversee school age transition team and always looking to find opportunities in the community for the kiddos we serve.
Great. Lisa.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Deaton.
I'm Jim Weibel.
And we are with LD Images Photography. We own a boutique photography studio in Fairfield Township, Ohio. We specialize in artwork for people's homes, whether that be high school seniors, families. We also do business headshots. So that's who we are.
Awesome. Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy Keitel of Keitel Business Coaching, and I can put more cash in your pocket if you are a business owner.
Right. Laura.
Good morning. I'm Laura Merrill with the Greater Hamilton Chamber.
And Jason.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jason Michael Miller, Director of Membership and Engagement for the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce.
We're just having Michelle just jump on here too. Sorry.
Oh, there she is. Michelle, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you're with.
Don't think she heard you.
Hey, Michelle, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us who you're with.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I was getting my audio set up. My name is Michelle Harris. I'm the walk manager for Butler Warren Counties with the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay, and I'm Tiffany Grubb, Director of Marketing, Greater Hamilton Chamber. And I think that is everyone on my screen. So, John, you can start your presentation.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I'm John with Rhoads Life Coaching. I do one-on-one coaching and team and small business coaching with a whole person approach to growth and development. And I wanted to share with you today a concept and a tool that I have been sharing with others over the last 10 years of my business. I take a fundamental approach to growth and development, meaning trying to take a concept and define what it is, boil it down to its simplest terms, and then work on developing that to a higher level of skill level. We're going to do that with networking today. As Dan and Jason both said, please do not hesitate to interrupt. This is intended to be a conversation. I've presented this topic over 6 hours, over 2 hours, and we're going to try to do it in 30 minutes today. So it's intended to be a development piece for you, not just for me talking. Please do not hesitate to interrupt and ask questions. With that, I need to have access to share my screen, please.
Sure. Give me just one moment. Share. Oh.
There you go. You should be good.
There we go. Thank you. Make sure I get the right thing here. So we're going to talk about the fundamentals of networking. First, tell me what you think networking is. Anytime there's a long, awkward pause, that's an opportunity to interject one of your thoughts or questions.
I
Effective
think
listening.
What'd you say, Dan?
Effective listening.
Effective listening, good. What else?
Connecting.
Connecting, good. What else?
It's an opportunity for curiosity, just to learn more and gain more knowledge about different things that are happening around you.
Very cool. What else? None of these are wrong. The reason I'm taking the time while you are typing answers in or thinking of something else, the reason I'm taking time to ask is because frequently we define something and we each have a different definition of what that word means or what the idea means, and that we create dissonance and we miss each other when we're using different definitions. So for our purposes today, I'm going to use this definition from the Business Dictionary. And I want you to take time to look at each individual word that jumps out at you as I read it to you. For our purposes today, networking is creating a group of acquaintances and associates and keeping it active through regular communication for mutual benefit. Networking is based on the question, how can I help, and not with what can I get? Frequently I run into folks who have a different definition of what they mean by networking, and that different definition limits and sometimes intimidates their ability to use networking as an effective tool. So, based on this definition, keep it in mind as we go through the rest of our conversation today. Tell me, what are the elemental pieces that make up networking based on that definition?
I think Dan hit the nail on the head earlier when he said, effective listening.
Listening ends up being a key piece of it, because in order to help someone of going into a conversation of how can I help, we have to actually listen for what they are looking for. And when we stop listening and jump to conclusions, we frequently miss an opportunity because we didn't hear. What other elemental pieces are in that definition?
That it's a group of people, not just singular.
Correct. It's an interesting thing thinking about how we connect with each other, and that those connections end up being different levels of connection. And frequently when folks that are looking for jobs or looking for clients or whatever else, they want the world to come to them, and that working alone doesn't work well. The connections end up being the most important piece of this.
It's relational.
It's a very relational thing.
Building relationships.
And that attitude in that relationship, in that how you're building the relationships, makes all of the difference. One of the things that I find and that my clients find is that by putting that intention into the relationship, it changes how their business and other people's businesses go, because that customer service and that relationship ends up being the thing that sets them apart from other businesses. All of this is great stuff. Anything else to add to the elements?
I think help is a key word, because if you approach people with how can I help you, they will ultimately end up helping you back in that relationship.
Very good. So it's an interesting thing in this, and this is going to be one of the key takeaways from our conversation today, is that mutual benefit, going into a conversation of how can I help someone else and how can they potentially help me, takes a lot of pressure off of sales, asking for a job, whatever else it is, because sometimes we intimidate ourselves into thinking that I'm being needy or aggressive by asking what can I get out of a situation. That mutual benefit and trying to help somebody else, even if you don't sell anything, is a critically important piece to building those relationships. If you think of any other elements, let me know. But what's not included in networking based on that definition?
Just outright selling to someone.
Sales is not mentioned anywhere in the definition. So it's a shift in that I'm able to go out into the world and connect with people and find the things that I need without trying to sell to every person I meet. And there's a shift in that that's critically important in that if you go into a conversation trying not to sell to somebody, different things happen. People aren't turned off as much by trying to hard sell them in a one-on-one conversation. And it changes how we engage with the rest of the world. And starting to find the people that are looking for us makes it much less aggressive. What else is not included in networking?
I want to say time limits, because if it's a relationship and it's relational, that 30-second spiel or 60-second spiel is not enough.
That's exactly right. And that this is intended to be a growing and developing thing for different levels for different people. And it's not just a 60-second commercial. One more thing that's not included in networking that I have to include because I run across it every once in a while is that networking is not a romantic endeavor. There are other apps for that. I say that only because in the years of networking and networking with other folks, every once in a while we run across somebody that gets the wires crossed and is confused. And if you ever run across someone who thinks that networking is a romantic endeavor, you have my permission to run as fast as you can. The intent behind this is that it's not a social thing. It's not Facebook. It's not collecting business cards. It is being intentional and that specific in terms of why you sit down and talk with somebody. Anything else we left out before we move on? Okay, here's what you came for. 10 steps to networking. First, you have to go out and meet people. I am currently, my wife is cringing right now because she hates it when I say that if you want to go out and find what you're looking for, you have to leave the house. And I say that if you want to get hit by a school bus, you have to go play in traffic. So you can network for anything, but that means that you actually have to go out and engage with the world. And there are tricks to that. But the first step is going and meeting people. Frequently, we confuse networking with just meeting people, and that limits the definition. That's only step one. The second step is to ask to meet people one-on-one. And the phrase that I use is very simple, but it's specific of, hey, it was great to meet you at the Coffee Connections on Tuesday. Would you be interested in having a networking one-on-one with me? And then end of message. The one-on-one allows for a much deeper connection of figuring out how can I help you and what are you looking for than just meeting people at a networking event or a social event or a chamber meeting or a business meeting or whatever else. We meet lots of folks, but we don't actually take the time to get to know them well. And that one-on-one creates an opportunity to build the relationship. When you sit down with somebody, it could be in person, it could be by Zoom. One of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we're much more open to Zoom meetings than we were before. It could be by phone. But for those of us that are introverts, asking about the person when you sit down helps to break the ice. What is it that they want you to know about them? Getting to know a little bit about, if you're from the west side of Cincinnati, what's the first question?
Where'd you go to school?
What high school did you go to? Which allows them to pigeonhole you into a very specific definition of who you are. But getting to know you is part of the relationship. So asking about them. If you don't like talking about yourself, this helps to break the ice. Next is ask, what do they need in terms of meeting other people? Notice that the question isn't about asking what they're selling. It's not asking about what you want to buy from them. It's looking at the idea of if they're building their network, their web, then who is it that they're looking to meet? And that sometimes needs to be a very specific thing. I work in developing this skill with folks that are in transition, that are unemployed. And frequently they'll tell me, "Hey, I'm looking for a job." And I'll tease them back and say, "Okay, I can get you a job this afternoon. We can go down to Castellini's in Fort Wright and you can cut lettuce in a 35-degree room 12 hours a day, 6 days a week with water up to your ankles. We can get you a job, but that's not the job that you're looking for." So being specific in terms of thinking of what is it that I'm networking for today, and it doesn't always have to be the same thing, but being specific in terms of meeting other people is a critical piece of this in allow to do the next step, which is while they're talking and defining what they're looking for, you're trying to come up with the names of two people that would be good introductions to introduce them to. The idea behind that is that it's sending them to the next best person to find what they're looking for. And eventually they will run into the thing and person that they're looking for that will be an automatic connection. It also short circuits all of the cold calls and all of the random connections that we try and make with people. And by you sending to another person, you have now given your endorsement that you have vetted this person. They're not clinically insane. They're not trying to sell stuff hard. And that by saying, "Hey, John Rhoads sent me to talk to you. He thought you'd be a good person to talk to," you're endorsing this person and giving a warm handoff. And that warm handoff of that introduction ends up being the secret sauce, the magic of how this works of developing and building relationships. Now comes the tough part for you introverts. Once you've tried to think about who to introduce them to, it's your turn to tell about you. I tease, don't start in third grade. It's trying to figure out a brief summary of what is it that you are about. What are you doing right now? Who are you? That can be a quick summary, but don't start with how bad the last job was and how much things have been awful for you. What are you looking for is a specific ask. And who is it that you're looking to meet? That takes some practice to develop that. And then after you've done that, ask them if they know two people to introduce to you. This is the hardest part. It might be that they know exactly the right person for you to talk to that wants to buy whatever you're selling. It might be that they don't have an idea, but they know someone who might know. And the idea behind this is that you're starting to look for the nodes, the hubs of people that know lots of people, the Dan Bates of the world who know everybody, and trying to figure out, can you connect through those hubs to find the best person that's looking for you? It's important. Some of us are codependent or recovering codependents, and we'll walk away from these networking conversations not doing step number 7. We'll take care of the other person, but we won't ask for what we need. And that's not networking. That's just rescuing and helping. It's intended to be a mutually beneficial conversation. After you've finished the meeting, make the introductions from your network. That can be a joint email. It could be calling ahead to the person that you referred to and say, "Hey, do you have time and energy to meet with this person?" It could be just simply sending the person that you had the one-on-one with to your LinkedIn profile and saying, "Hey, reach out to this person that I'm connected to and send them a note saying that I said that we met and that you were a good person to meet with." Make the introductions. Please, for the love of God, reach out to the people that they offered. Otherwise, you have wasted your time and their time. And then number 10 is rinse and repeat. Okay, that was a lot of information and me talking all at once. What questions, comments, or snide remarks do you have?
Well, I have to say, I love the action items that you gave in the step by step and just kind of some mindsets to think about. And the way that you broke things down and the reason why you're adding these to the step by step, it makes so much sense. And I think so many people tend to network aimlessly, and you have now given people, I think, a goal going in, which is not self-serving, but just more efficient and effective and selfless.
Well said.
I think everything that you've listed, like I think the key word that you've said several times is like intention. Um, and I know I have reached out, I help folks find employment and get jobs and things like that in the community who have disabilities. And I reached out to Jason because I had someone who wanted a very specific type of job. I'm like, who is in the chamber network that could be a good lead for us to reach out to? Now, the person we were trying to find a job for, unfortunately, we didn't make a match for, but we did make connections who said, we would love to work with you in the future if you have someone who has the stamina and the ability to withstand this type of job. So that was a really, I mean, it was a win-win regardless. We made really good connections, and we learned to rely on the expertise of the collective group, not just I wasn't cold calling, like you said, all these different businesses. And so it was a more direct route to get there, I guess.
That's a really good example because the vast majority of the chamber's purpose is to be a connector in the community. And so thinking of it that way of, hey, the chamber probably knows, or somebody at the chamber knows who to help me solve this problem, ends up being one of the hubs of the intersection where we come together for information and connections and get sent out in a better direction than if we just aimlessly searched ourselves. That's a really good example. Go ahead, Christy.
Yeah, I reached out, I just messaged Michelle to see if this was okay to share this. I think there was shortly after I had talked with you, John, and wanted to implement. This is still a work in progress for me, but had connected with Michelle, and through my contacts, she was able to connect up with. I introduced her in an email to several people, one of whom is the service coordinator at Baden High School. And so she was able to attend their service fair and so forth. So I can say I guess this works. Michelle, maybe you can offer some insight on how that was for you.
You follow the 10-step process flawlessly. Now that I see it in front of me, I see where you just knocked it out of the park, Christy. Now, I very much appreciate, as Jason said, the action items here, and that there's mutual opportunity for both parties. And like that's one of the things when we're networking, everyone has what they're working towards, and so you want to be able to express that in a professional manner that is received well, and that there is movement, and it might not be with that person. And I think that's what these 10 steps really allow to shine, is that it's not about necessarily nailing the deal with that person. It's about getting to the right person without having to do all the legwork yourself. And there's strength in numbers. So I appreciate that very much. And yes, Baden, the service fair was wonderful. Megan, who Christy had me reach out to, was super helpful, very happy to bring us in, and grateful for the connection as well.
All really good stuff. So the idea behind this becomes figuring out who it is that you know and starting to look for the gaps of where can I start plugging in information that I didn't know before. So if you take a list of 10 people, well, let me back up a step. Are you familiar, or do you remember the Kevin Bacon game? The 6 Degrees of Separation was the party game that we played in the early 2000s. This is a version of the Kevin Bacon game, except that in Southwest Ohio, instead of 6 degrees of separation, it's 3 degrees of separation. We're a really big small town, and everybody knows everybody. So it's trying to plug in who is it that I'm looking for. And the higher level of this is that, wait, I ran into somebody last week that you're looking for now, and I can connect the two of you. And now I'm a hero to both of you, even though it didn't benefit me. And that goes a long way in terms of reputation and that customer service server mindset. If we take a list of 10 people and each of those 10 people on the list give us two names to network with, how many people are on our list now?
20.
Plus the original 10 is 30,
30.
it's difficult to wrap your head around of, okay, we had 10, now we got 20, that's 30. If each of those 20 people give us two more names each, how many names are on the list now? 10 plus 20 plus 40 is 70. That's only 2 degrees of separation. If we do another two off of that list of 40, now we're up to 150 already. And that's only just in 3 levels of starting to network. It doesn't matter how big the web is, it only matters what works for you. But recognizing that inside those 150 people, they probably know just about everybody around. And understanding what they're looking for and you're looking for goes a long way to helping them prosper, which benefits you. Any more quick questions before we move on?
I don't have a question, John, but I do have a comment. Um, this is so key to make this simple for people. But the same thing goes if you are really a bad networker. And as I say it, people come at you with nostrils flaring and, to make that sale. That same, 150 people can spread negatively just as fast so that everybody's like, oh, avoid so-and-so because they're going to get you cornered.
Right. And I've had some epically bad networking one-on-ones. My favorite that I use, and I thankfully don't remember the guy's name, was an insurance salesman, and he was straight out of Groundhog Day. He was Needle-Nosed Ned, and he was certain that he was going to sell me life insurance that day. So much so that he brought his boss to the one-on-one, and they spent 45 minutes trying to twist my arms to buy life insurance. Thankfully, I survived, and as you just said, Dan, I've never reached out or talked to the guy since because it's not a fruitful and beneficial relationship. Good stuff. So let me back up. What to expect from this exercise? What to expect from these 10 steps?
I think, John,
Go ahead, Cindy.
I was just going to say, shoot, my screen just went off. There we go. Oh, shoot. Why is it doing that? Okay. Anyway, I don't know why it's doing that, but it keeps bringing a good morning screen on top of your screen. Anyway, you can expect to have a lot more meaningful one-on-ones with people you can follow back up with and continue to network with. And that even includes, I've met some wonderful business coaches and people that are different types of coaches, including you, John, that I would want to stay in touch with. So there are people you can ask questions of. It is a network. It's a type of business friendship.
Yeah. And that the expectation is that it ends up being a recurring thing. It's not a one and done. If you expect it to be a one and done thing, if you expect to network with 10 people and find all the things that you need, there's going to be some disappointment. Dan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you also become a wealth of information because, people ask me questions every day that I don't know, but I know who does know. So, I can either send a text or pick up the phone or whatever and say, hey, I was just asked this question. Can you, fill me in? So it makes you more valuable to your contacts because they know that if you don't know, you know who to call to find it out.
Right. And that's a big compliment when somebody says, oh, I don't know this, but I bet you Dan does. Or whoever else. Once you start having an idea of who it is that you're connected to and how to connect them, that's an important thing. There's a comment in the chat. Was somebody watching it? I didn't see it. One other thing to expect is that this is not a 100% efficient process. In my experience, about 2/3 of the people out there understand what networking is. And if they don't understand or they're too busy right at this moment, how busy your life is. It takes time to do this. And if you're expecting it to be a quick and efficient process, that's not how it works. If you expect everybody to go, oh yeah, I definitely want a one-on-one, you're going to be disappointed. And I would argue the folks that don't get and understand what networking is and the value of it, you probably don't want to network with anyway. So there should be some level of expectation of also expecting some pretty cool miracles of things happening of, I had no idea that that business was within a mile of my house. Or that, especially with job transition or finding clients, we've had folks come through and take this workshop that were brave enough to ask somebody in the swim lesson in the pool with them to have a cup of coffee. And 3 weeks later, they had connected to somebody that found them a job. Or one time when we had a lady come through, she was also looking for a social connection in addition to a job, but wanted to find a knitting club. My wife is best friends with her friend from high school who lives around the corner from us, and she runs a knitting club in Hamilton. You might know it. They go to a different restaurant or bar every other Thursday and sit and knit while they drink, which I think is hysterical. But this group included her and helped her find a job farther down the line. Where to find networking opportunities?
John, I also want to add that I try to do it on a regular basis, so it's just not a one and done thing, and that every week it'd be great to schedule 2 or 3 one-on-ones. So as I meet people, oh, now I'm going to sneeze. I'm sorry. What a warning.
Mike, Jason's having the same problem.
I know, it's crazy. Are you sneezing too, Jason? I'm sorry. But anyway, just yeah, it's a regular thing, and you get better at it as you do it, and you just never know where the conversation will lead. Like with you, John, where our conversation led on a one-on-one was wonderful.
Perfect. And so,
if I could just add something too, you know, being in a chamber role for a few years now, one of the things that I have seen is sometimes when people are downsized or lose their job or whatever, out of, I don't know, embarrassment or, just trying to recover mentally or whatever, they stop networking.
yep.
And that's the very time that they should ramp it up because, being with 3 chambers now, each time that someone has been downsized or lost their job for whatever reason, um, we always encourage them to continue to be active with the chamber, even if they don't have, a business that they're directly associated with, and let people know they're in transition. And the people that have done that in every single case have found a new career better than they had before through a chamber member. And it might not even be a chamber member. It might, like you said, be somebody they know.
Right. In less time.
Yeah.
One of the things I work with the Northern Kentucky Accountability Group that does this around transition. It's out of the Kenton County Library. It's a free program. And their anecdotal evidence is that about 70% of the jobs in Southwest Ohio and Northern Kentucky are filled before they're ever posted online. And the only way to circumvent that is through networking of timing it where you're getting ahead of the job posting and it's being filled by people that know each other and they're handing it off instead of applying on Indeed or through an online app. Okay, I'm running low on time. Where do you find networking opportunities?
The chamber.
Perfect answer. Ding, ding, ding. Where else?
Everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere, really. It could be in the line at the grocery store, but I have actually, I go to 5 different networking events. Sometimes they're all at the same time and I can't decide which one to go to, but I'm a member of BNI and H7, Badass Boss Babe Women's Club. I know, don't laugh too hard. And then some other one in Cincinnati, I don't even know the name of it.
Perfect. Where else?
Our family, our friends, our communities, wherever we're at outside of work time.
It's interesting thinking about all of our friends on Facebook. I'm always a little bit confused when the Hamilton West group, somebody posts asking for a recommendation for pizza. because everybody chimes in and everybody rings in on all of the pizza places. I don't know what that person actually decides. But asking our connections through those social apps or our friends and family, the people that care about us most, frequently know people that we don't know that they know. It's amazing to me the number of folks that sitting at a soccer practice, the person next to them is the spouse or partner of somebody way high up the food chain in a company that they didn't know. So my ask is to start thinking of where are the networking opportunities if you are asking in a very intentional and specific way. Okay, real quick. Dan and Cindy, you both have already pointed at what an up and running network looks like. Because if you're not using this as a tool on a frequent basis, it'll just go away. It's possible for your network to go stale and it takes effort to restart it. So thinking of it as like going to the gym and it being the right amount for you on a weekly basis. As things ebb and flow, you might need to do more or less of it, but making it part of the daily routine or the weekly routine, whether that's one meeting or two, keeps it up and running and keeps it fresh so that when you actually do need something, you're able to ask for it and find it quickly. If you don't keep it up and running, it will go away. So collecting business cards and them sitting on the corner of your desk for a month, month and a half after an event isn't networking. That's collecting baseball cards. My challenge to you after we get off of this call is to list 10 people that you need to ask for a networking one-on-one. To make it simple and start with 10 people and to keep track of who you met with, when you met with them, the names of the people that they recommended that you talk to. And then when you've talked to that person, you've met with them and they've recommended a person, reach out to the next person and say, hey, John Rhoads said you'd be a good person to have a one-on-one with. Would you be interested in sitting down for a cup of coffee or a Zoom call? If you don't use it, it will decrease. And as Dan said, it's interesting in that folks that don't keep their network up and running, when they find themselves in transition, when they really need something, it takes longer to find it. A really great book to read, The 20-Minute Networking Meeting, gives a lot of these same tips. If you, a personal ask for me is if you ever meet anybody that's in transition, I'd be happy to help them get connected to the Northern Kentucky Accountability Group. It is a free program. I've been working with them for almost 10 years now. They're nationally recognized for the work that they do, and this is one of the main resources they use around that idea of who is it that you know. We covered a lot of territory. I'd be happy to continue the conversation offline. I've already had one-on-ones with some of you, so thank you for showing up today. Please connect to me on LinkedIn. Please send me an email. I appreciate your attention today. And with that, I will open it up to any more questions or comments or snide remarks. Go ahead, Cindy.
Hi, I've got one question. Quite a few people I've met with are networking because they're new to the area, just like I was very new to the area 2 years ago. And sometimes we're not able to identify who could help each other. But we have a great one-on-one and we can keep each other in mind. But is there a trick or something or a tip for that I'm missing? What could we do to help the other person when we know fewer people than we did in our old network and they know nobody, or they're very limited?
One of the biggest hurdles that I run into in this presentation, and I will tease folks throughout the 3 hours that we do it, is that folks will tell me with a straight face that they don't know anybody. And I'll tease them that that's false. So my recommendation for folks that are new to the area is thinking about Cincinnati and Hamilton are national and international cities, and that your network from wherever you came from is just as valid as a resource in the 21st century as it is being local. So trying to think of, okay, I don't know anybody now here locally, and I'm being intentional about that, but thinking of what is it that you're looking for, and does my adjacent network still contain that as a way to expand it just beyond Hamilton and Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
It's Even if your network is just now starting and small, the people that you do know are still valuable connections to that person. Go ahead, Michelle.
I had two items. The first one was I had a mentor who recommended to me to use the acronym FORWARD when networking with people. And I have found that to be very useful, where you talk about families, opportunities, relationship streams, and and you get to the need, but you learn about the person with intentionality, and you touch on those things each time. Those are the things you go back to in your CRM or notes, right? Like that you're going to ask about the family, what's going on and whatnot. So I just wanted to, ask if you thought that that was a great way to kind of drill it down and focus and not get too far off of the mainstream. And then I have one other question too.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
Any trick or
One
method.
tool, right?
It's
Yeah.
interesting in networking with folks that have never done it before and that they're practicing and nervous. Take the 10 steps with you on a notepad. Take the forward with you of write down what your specific ask is. It's not cheating to look at your notes while you're talking to somebody. And I highly recommend tracking what those forward things are so that you can keep track of them going forward of you do want to ask about that person when you see them next time, or that their ask is something that's in you have written down and accessible to be able to remember.
That's great point to that follow up of being able to continue to feed, you know,
Yep.
that relationship. My other question was, do you have any guidance on follow up? So as you have these one-on-ones and whatnot, what is the cadence for continuing to build that relationship?
Perfect. So the first part of that is frequently folks will ask, how often should I reach out so that I'm not being annoying? And that's a legit thing. If you don't hear from somebody, if you send a request and say, hey, would you like to have a one-on-one? And you don't hear from them in 2 weeks, send them a second request. You and I are all crazy busy enough that sometimes things fall through the cracks. Sometimes we get sick for a week and our whole family's in bed sick and we lose track of where we were. Send them a second request, and then after that, just let it go. In terms of the cadence, though, it depends on the quality of the relationship. And so the chamber might be a much more frequent seeing people and connecting because you see each other on a more regular basis. But if it's a really meaningful connection, that should be at the top of the list of more frequently. If it's more of a passing thing and hasn't been developed as much, that might be a quarterly or semi-annually or annual basis. It might be a checking in thing instead of seeing on a regular basis. The benefit of BNI and H7 and whatever else is that the intentionality is that we're going to see each other weekly and that the value of that goes way up because we're going to put a lot of effort into it. Did that answer the questions?
Yes, thank you.
Who else?
John,
John, oh, go ahead.
okay, I just wanted to mention too, your 10 steps also, I think, apply to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great networking tool when used properly. When somebody reaches out to me just to create a sale, meeting, I delete them immediately. But, I've made a lot of contacts on LinkedIn. We have, services that we have purchased here at the Chamber from people in other states that I developed a relationship with on LinkedIn because nobody locally was actually doing that. And I have a lot of people reach out to me, say, do you know so and so? If you do, are you willing to connect us? If I know both of them, I do. If I don't know you from Adam, I'm probably not going to make that connection for you because I hope people see when I reach out that my connections are valuable and, like you said, intentional and thought through. But, LinkedIn can be a great tool when used properly. And it amazes me how, so many people are more focused for their business on Facebook than they are like LinkedIn.
Yeah. So to that point, I agree with all of that. Michelle, you mentioned a CRM. There's lots of different ways to keep track of this information. I use LinkedIn because of that function of one, it keeps track of all the messages of direct messages you've ever sent. It doesn't delete them. And it shows who you and other people are connected to at second and third tiers of connection. And then it also allows you to, if a person changes a job or a title, you're still connected to them on LinkedIn if they keep their profile updated. So that email address or phone number doesn't go stale as long as they keep their profile updated. I use LinkedIn as my way of tracking um, who I'm connected to and curating that so that it's not just random connections. Of the 1,800 people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, I've probably had coffee with about 1,000 of them. And it's being intentional of I don't want to be connected to you if you just want to sell me stuff or I don't know who you are. Cindy, you had a question?
It was just a comment that I found networking groups where you're meeting the same people, whether it's weekly or you run into them once a month, the pressure's somewhat off for networking. I don't go into it nervous or concerned or feeling like I need to be sold to or I'm going to sell to them. It's very different. It creates an environment for discussion that's authentic.
And an opportunity to meet if you're bringing guests in or whatever else. It's trying to figure out how that web magnifies its power by being connected to those businesses.
John, if I could just add along with Cindy's point, service groups are also very good for networking. That's not their intention, but it ends up happening again very naturally and organically. So, like Rotary and Kiwanis and, Elks and all those service groups that are really set up to give back. When you're working on projects with people and you're a member of that organization, it just becomes automatic that if I need something, I'm probably going to reach out to one of them first.
Right. Ironically, fraternities and sororities were set up for that reason first, not the beer pong and parties. It was all the alumni going out into the world ended up being their network of plugging in new jobs after graduation. Christy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm thinking of in terms of you've got an hour meeting, a luncheon or something that you go to, and I guess I'm kind of thinking now that what might be perceived as this wasn't a very good opportunity, this wasn't a very good meeting because you have a conversation for 20 minutes with one person. And I've had that happen where I've engaged with a conversation and it's what I do. Okay. It's that deep listening. And I have this person's life story. And, that there's something that is special about that, and want to honor that rather than, as you said, collecting the business cards. I walked away from the last encounter, last meeting that I had networking, and I had 2 business cards, and there were like 30 people at this group. There tends to be the same people kind of talk in the same groups. And how do you approach that? How do you go up and say, hey, I wanted to talk with you, or I wanted to just meet and chat and get to know you better? I mean, how do you do that when there's those little groups of folks that you see them at meeting after meeting,
Yep.
having the same conversation or talking together?
Yep. So what we didn't get to in our presentation today is that there's a whole other section of this of networking for introverts. And the the key strategies and self-protecting behaviors around that type of stuff of those big groups tend to be kind of cliquey and circle up in order to protect themselves, and strategies around when you walk into a room, go connect with the person that you know first and say hi to them, and then ask them, who are 2 people that I should meet here today? Or to take a wing buddy with you and that you're going in with 2 people and that they're working, you're working your way around the room with them allows it to be a safer, less energy thing. Also, picking off one person in those circles and asking them for a one-on-one later, it doesn't matter if they circle up during the meeting. You've still got that one-on-one. And 2 conversations out of 30 is still a win. You don't have to meet everybody in the room. Jason is watching the clock. It's time for me to stop talking.
Oh no, I had a question. But first I want to affirm, John, like this coffee and conversation was so beneficial, and it was so thoughtful, and I appreciate how you broke everything down and you also added charm and humor. So thank you. I want to say thank you for that. I had a question about when our members come to networking and maybe there's two or three people from the same industry. Um, what advice do you have for those members who are kind of like, well, why am I here? There's already, a videographer. Sometimes, there might be two
Yeah.
videographers. There might be, um, I'm thinking of different industries, but how do you kind of calm those nerves, I guess?
For me, I don't think I've ever found two realtors or two insurance agents that are doing it the same way. Yes, they're selling the same products, but it's fascinating to me of like there's three coaches on this call alone, and we all do something very dramatically different. I haven't run across anybody that's doing things the same way that I do them. Getting to know what their intent is, what their focus is, what their values are, what their customer service is. I try to get those folks to at least talk to each other for a little bit. That feeling threatened uh, is part of that block of not developing a relationship where they feel safe having a competing industry in the room.
Mm,
And that's more about them than it is about the competitor.
okay.
And that's a difficult thing to get around, but we want everybody to be at the table because I, I don't think we've run out of opportunities for clients in Hamilton or Southwest Ohio yet.
Right, right. No, I appreciate that. I love that. I know Dan commented, and this is so true. At a chamber event, please use the chamber staff to help you identify who is in the room that you should meet based upon our knowledge of your business and organization. So that was awesome, Dan. Um,
I agree. And I'm slowly working my way through having a one-on-one with all the chamber employees because they know everybody.
well, I'm getting to know people. I'm still new, but Dan knows a lot of people. I know Tiffany does, Nancy, but yeah. Um, are there any more questions for John? And keep in mind, I'm going to be sending a follow-up email after this coffee and conversation with John's contact information. Um, and John, maybe you can reply all with your presentation so it has your social media and where to find you. Um, and I'm going to be sending a recap. Is it okay if I send the 10 steps that you spoke about in the book recommendation? Okay.
Yeah.
Jason,
Yeah.
I think that, John, if you're willing, I think that we should have John put together a little snippet article for our e-newsletter
Hmm.
referring to the 10 steps of networking and, even telling people if you missed it, catch it on our YouTube channel.
Hmm.
And this is a free thing that I offer. So like if there's an interest in doing this in other places for other groups, I'm more than happy to keep developing this as a tool because that benefits me for educating people on how to network.
Yeah. I think that would be great. I don't think Tiffany's on the call right now, but I'll fold her in. That would be awesome. Does anyone have any more questions? No. All right. Well, I do want to thank John Rhoads for being here of Rhoads Life Coaching. Thank you all for attending. For those out there on Facebook and YouTube and Zoom, ways to keep in touch, head to the Greater Hamilton Chamber of Commerce website, which is hamilton-ohio.com. Check out our chamber calendar, our community calendar. Also, download the Explore Hamilton app for free. Some upcoming events that we have coming up. Tonight we have a Mix It Up and ribbon cutting at Kitchen Oasis, which is a commercial shared kitchen space. Land of Illusion will be opening this weekend, and you can reach out to Gina Ferraro for 50% off entrance. The next coffee and conversation will be Jessica Reynolds with Brandon Holmes, and she's going to be talking about attainable luxury homes. June 2nd, we have our upcoming golf classic at Twin Run Golf Course. I believe we have 2 spots left for golfers. And also, we are doing Facebook Live tours. This is not just for restaurants and retail shops. So if you would like to invite the chamber to do a Facebook Live tour on your company, please let us know. It's been a great way to boost visibility and let customers know that you are out there, and to let your recurring customers and clients know maybe some things that they didn't know before. So it's been a great way to boost visibility and educate and inform your client base and member base. So we've been doing that for chamber members, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. So thanks for being here today. Have a good one, guys.
Bye, everyone.